So, Emma.
Yes, sir.
A Gentile and a Jew walk into a podcast. Hear me out on this one. You heard it? And they're tasked with talking about a screen adaptation of a play, musical, mind you, rock opera. Don't confuse it with a musical, because it's not a musical. It was a concept album that turned into a rock opera that turned into a movie. We're going to be talking about Jesus Christ Superstar, which was not our originally programmed content for this month, but we decided, hey, you know what? Let's change it up. Let's do something different for once. And for once, I mean, every month we do pretty much the same thing, which is talk about a theme and movies underneath that theme. This month just happens to be musicals, but I guess this technically doesn't count because it's a rock opera.
Wow, so subversive of you.
Right? Oh, boy. But yeah, no, we are going to be talking about Jesus Christ Superstar. I am the host of the Kulturecast, Chris Stachiw, and I'm joined by my good friend. You have heard her on Scary Stories We Tell plenty. You have not heard her here on this show enough, which is the fucking truth. Your friend and mine, one of the co-hosts over there at Scary Stories We Tell, Emma.
Hello, it's nearly 3 a.m. Happy to be here.
Sometimes you and I talk for a long time, and sometimes we talk for a long time, and we also have things we also have to do afterwards.
Like an absurd amount of things that we have to do afterwards.
Right, and sometimes we are able to watch and record at the same time. On the Kulturecast, folks, we're not doing this while watching the movie. We're doing this after watching the movie, literally after watching the movie in our case, or most of the time we've watched the movie before showing up. But you know what? If someone wants to watch the movie with me, I'm not going to say no. So Emma and I just spent the last hour and 46 minutes of our lives watching.
Are you sure it was not longer?
It felt longer. But on this episode of the Kulturecast, we're going to be talking about the 1973 film adaptation of the immensely popular rock opera of the exact same name by Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber, that is, titled in both regards, Jesus Christ Superstar.
To believe the things they say of you, you really do believe this talk of God is true.
Yet, if he said he loved me, I'd be lost, I'd be frightened, I couldn't cope, just couldn't cope. I'd turn my head, I'd back away, I wouldn't want to know, it scares me so.
My temple should be a house of prayer. But you have made it a den of thieves. You know I love you. Did you see our way? I believe in you and God, so tell me that I'm saved. Christ, you know I love you. Did you see our way? I believe in you and God, so tell me that I'm saved.
So, you are the Christ. You're the great Jesus Christ. Prove to me that you're divine. Change my water into wine.
So the film is directed by, and Emma's already making noise.
Listen. I've given hours of my life to this.
You're about to give another hour and a half more, probably.
Yay! Who needs sleep when you have Jesus?
Christ, superstar. The film that's directed by Norman Jewison. It's, like I said, based on the
It's such a good name. Such a good name.
It's based, like I said, on the musical of the same name, and this film adaptation stars several of most of the people from the original stage play. Ted Neeley plays Jesus, Carl Anderson plays Judas, Levon Elliman plays Mary Magdalene, and Barry Dennen plays Pontius Pilate. Yes, if you know the Bible, you pretty much already know this story, at least the broad strokes. In terms of the psychological reasoning for why the characters are doing things, in terms of the songs that they're being sung, and we're learning about the character motivations, that's
creative liberties.
Right. To be fair, the musical is based off of I don't know how to put this any other way, folks, so I'll say it before anybody else does. Anybody else being Emma, the Bible is fiction. Fictional characters. There may have been a person named Jesus Christ. There was probably plenty of people named Jesus. But
Superstar.
Oh, sorry. Was he the Son of God? Well, if you believe in God, then you probably believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God. If you believe in the Christian God, however, yours truly is not one of those people. So again, and this is just me coming from where I'm coming from. Emma, I mentioned at the top of this episode, you are Jewish, so you are not a Christian either. So we might be the two best if you believe me, or two worst if you believe Christians, people to talk about something to do with Jesus Christ, I guess.
I mean, I do think we have a wide range here, right? Because did you grow up in like a Christian or Catholic coded household?
Wow. So yeah, and welcome to Scary Stories We Tell, everyone. I mean, that's what's funny is like, I was wondering if you were going to ask me, because again, this seems like a thing we have talked about. I think we talked about it there before. I grew up in a household where mom and dad, mom was raised a Roman Catholic, went to a Catholic high school, went to a Catholic elementary school, middle school. Dad, not so much. My grandfather was Ukrainian, so Ukrainian Orthodox. But where we lived in Dallas, there wasn't a Ukrainian Orthodox church, not that we could go to or knew about at the time. So I was actually baptized in a Greek Orthodox church, of all things. And we went sparingly to Greek Orthodox churches, or the singular Greek Orthodox church in Dallas. If you are from Dallas, you know which church I am talking about. It is a rather large church in Dallas that every September puts on a Greek festival, which is a lot of fun because, Greeks have a great time. They love to drink, they love to eat good food, and they love to dance, and they're a really awesome people. I have a very close friend who is like half Greek, and he's a good time, and he actually went to that church. But all that to be said, no, I was not really raised in a religious household. We went to church probably less than 20 times, so like less than half of a year's worth of church. And most of the times we went was just like randomly, if my mom was like, I want to go to church for Christmas Eve. I think we went one time, which is so fun.
I actually did that once with a friend.
Yeah.
I went to an evening Christmas mass. It sure was something. And by something, I mean, I don't remember any of it because I think I disassociated through most of it.
Well, and so that's the thing. I mean, again, like I said, we're either the best or worst people to be kind of talking objectively and subjectively about something based on the life of, again, a literal, quote, Messiah, unquote, if you are a Christian. So we can't get around it is what I'm getting at. Like,
right. So that's also why I want to preface. So yes, I was raised Reformed Jew, basically meaning casual Jew. I don't want to say we did like the bare minimum. I did go to Hebrew school where at one point I knew how to read Hebrew, although I could not speak it. And we went to, services on Sunday mornings for a while throughout it. I mean, up until I turned about like 11 or 12 is as long as like I was in what is known as shul, which is Hebrew school. So that, it's like CCD, I assume. I don't know. I've never been to CCD. That being said, other than keeping up with the big holidays and traditions that are important to me and my family, I myself do identify as agnostic. I see myself much more as Jewish by blood and agnostic by faith, which, for those that don't know, it's like a step below atheism. It's, I have no fucking clue. Maybe.
Yeah. I would consider myself an agnostic atheist. Like, I don't necessarily believe, and to be fair, you can't really prove it either. So that, like, choosing to
really prove or disprove.
Right, exactly.
So,
like,
who am I to, like, and that's my thought process is, who the fuck am I to say whether or not what religion is what religion and whether or not God exists? And
do you believe in God?
I don't know if I ever really did, because it wasn't even like I feel like going to temple is a lot different than going to church. Because going to church, you're like being preached at. You're being taught what to think. Like what interpretation of the Bible. And obviously every church is a little different. For me, in my experience, most of the services were in Hebrew. And it was less about like God and like how tangible, I suppose, the connection to God is, and much more of like, how can we do good? I mean, that's mainly what I remember is like a lot of it is like, these are like, remember where we came from. That's a big part of it. You know, the trials and tribulations that as a community, as a ethnic, you know, group that we have faced over the years. That was a big part of it. Like the terms like freed us from the house of bondage, etc. Like that came up a lot. And like do your mitzvahs, which a mitzvah is basically a good deed. But it wasn't like, if you do these things, you'll have a strong connection to God and go to heaven. It just, that stuff was never talked about. And so like, I knew of the concept of God. I don't know how much I really believed, because my parents never really made it clear to me whether or not they believed. Like to this day, I don't really know if either of them believe in God, to be completely honest. I think they believe in some semblance of a spirituality that resembles, you know, the teachings of Judaism, but it's so loose and so amorphous at this point. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that we're a special case. I feel like there are probably a lot of American Jews that feel similarly or were raised similarly. You know, we don't keep kosher. We don't do much of the things that people, you know, stereotypically associate with being Jewish. I can't tell you how many times growing up people were like, "You eat bacon?" It's like, yeah, bitch, it's fucking tasty. I don't know what to tell you.
And God, what does Bo Burnham say? And from God's perspective, I wouldn't. Oh, yeah. I don't give a shit about the deli counter.
I don't draw the line at the deli counter or something.
Yeah.
So, we also don't believe in sin the same way.
I don't believe in hell the same way.
I didn't know hell was a thing until some weird Catholic lady came up to my mom's car, and I was in the back seat and was like, "Oh, you're speaking about my older sister at the time." I was like 4, maybe. My sister is just being dropped off. I think I've told you this already, but for the sake of everyone listening, it's an interesting anecdote. My sister is dropped off at a slumber party. She must have been like 7, 8-ish. And so my mom and I were about to leave. I was, you know, in the back seat just because I needed to be watched and want to leave me home alone. And this woman, this nice looking woman, comes up to the driver's side window, you know, like taps on the window. So my mom, being the wonderful woman that she is, rolls her window down.
And confirm.
Yes, you did have a lovely chat with her for the first time today, which I'm very glad. So she rolls her window down. She's like, "Yeah, hi, can I help you?" And this woman goes, "Oh, you're so-and-so's mom, right?" And my mom is like, "Yes. Is everything okay?" And she goes, "Oh, your daughter is so sweet. Too bad she's going to hell." And my mom goes, excuse me?
Those Catholics love their hell, yo.
I'm like, "I'm sorry." And this woman goes, "Well, you're Jewish, right?" And like, I think this is probably the first time I ever heard of the concept of hell, was this random Catholic lady as we were just driving over, like we weren't even talking to anyone. We were in our car about to leave. And like, that's the part of this side of religion that deeply bothers me. It's not about what you believe in. It's how you pursue those beliefs and shove them onto others, which is something that Judaism, as far as I know, does not choose to do. If anything, we actively deter people from trying to convert. So we say, listen, it's not fun here, you know?
And so that's the thing. And this is the thing, again, if you are not of the Jewish faith, this may not be something that you inherently are aware of. And if I am speaking down to any of you, please stop me if you've heard this one before. In Christianity, the belief is that Jesus was the one true Messiah, the Son of God, reincarnated, brought to earth to die for our sins, you know, blah, 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 blah. In Judaism, they do not believe that Jesus was the Messiah.
Yeah.
That he was unlawfully anointed the Messiah.
Dude.
Right.
He was
Just
a guy
with a bunch of people that followed him. So again,
he was a Jew. He was a Jewish dude. He was just vibing.
Yes, folks, Jesus was in fact Jewish.
True.
So to get all that out of the way, Jesus Christ Superstar.
I know.
Yeah.
Just like that's the baseline.
Right. So that's where we're sitting here with Jesus Christ Superstar. So all that out of the way. It is a dramatized retelling of the Passion, which is the last couple days of Jesus's life, including when he's sold out by Judas, including Pontius washing his hands, including the 39 lashes, all the things that I feel like everybody of the Christian faith knows. And if you're not of the Christian faith, but you live in the United States of America, you've probably seen it or heard about it or heard somebody talking about it or seen a cross on a wall with a dead guy on it, which Emma mentioned it. I will reiterate this as well. Is kind of fucking weird, but okay.
I get the symbolism. I just don't want to see that every day in my like lovely living room. Like I understand what it represents. A beautiful sacrifice. Sure. It's fucking depressing to look at.
Yeah, like why you would actively choose to have that in your home at all times, maybe it's a constant reminder of Jesus's pain for his faith is probably a way that it's been explained away at some point. So all that to be said,
reminded of his pain.
Don't ask me. I do not flagellate myself constantly in a way that is often necessary to care about faith in the way that some people do.
I do need to feel the need. I'm sorry. I need to reiterate the fact that before we turned this on, I did say to Chris, are we sure we're supposed to be covering this?
I mean, again,
just with the caveat of if you're listening to this, I hope nothing is taken with offense because we are people with very specific views that don't align with what this was about. And so if you do align with that, then maybe this episode isn't for you, and that's okay. That being said,
well, that's the thing. I would actually, I don't bristle at that, but I disagree in a way because I think the people who made this have no interest in showing, because I really don't think Jesus is necessarily shown in a positive light.
No, not really. It doesn't seem like it.
And like that would, I think, be counterintuitive to what we as most people would consider to be the tenet of Christian faith, which is Jesus died for our sins. But and I know that people in Christianity bristle at the idea of Jesus being a flawed or, you know, complex figure, because I mean, I've seen the response to something like The Last Temptation of Christ. There's a little bit of it here. There's not a lot, though. They're doing something else. They're not trying to show super complex Jesus Christ. They're showing somewhat conflict Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, like he's minorly conflicted. So just want to get that out of the way. This is where we're coming from. This is where this thing is coming from, which is, again, a dramatized retelling of the story, not necessarily trying to do anything real in terms of like, again, like they're taking the story and doing with it as they will as artists. So all that to be said, Emma, what did you think of Jesus Christ Superstar?
The movie.
Right.
Just want to reiterate.
The movie, because we did watch some bits and pieces from some of the stage versions, which we will undoubtedly talk about for reasons that may have to do less with the successes of the movie, but more the successes of the stage play and the failings that the movie chooses not to take advantage of.
So my take is it could have been maybe a third of its length and been significantly more impactful. It was very long. I mean, the nature of the songs, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more, but the nature of the songs are incredibly repetitive. And I don't have an issue with repetitive lyrics, but it goes on for so long and it just it's just like, okay, we get it. Can we what's the next thing? It really drags. It really drags. And as somebody who's not intimately familiar with the Bible, there was a lot of confusion of what was going on. And to be fair, I don't necessarily think I'm the target audience, but I could have dealt with a little bit more exposition. I feel like they were so expositionless. In my opinion,
know the story of the Bible, right? Don't
right,
you?
Right. You just, everyone does it. Absolutely. It's just ingrained into your conscious from birth.
Right. As a Jew, you clearly know the story of the Passion.
That was the big obstacle for me. Is I know Jesus died on the cross. That, like, I know that. I know Judas betrayed him. I know the Last Supper was a thing. I know it was Passover. But like, everything else is like a big blind spot for me. And so I'm sitting here wondering, like, how much of this is a dramatization of what is in the Bible, but also like how much of this wasn't in the Bible at all. And like, do I look at this as like an accurate retelling, just a musical retelling with like an interesting interpretation on, you know, intention perhaps, or what's going on behind the scenes, but like, are all of the events as they happen in the Bible? I'm not sure. I did not know. So that was an obstacle for me. And they don't hold your hand with that, which, I mean, again, I don't think I'm the target audience. So it is what it is. I don't want to say it really bothered me, but it definitely didn't make it a super intuitive watch. So that I don't know. I feel like that definitely took away the enjoyment. So it was really long. It was kind of confusing. It was really repetitive for not enough reason, and kind of boring. And that's my take. I wish I liked it more. I love giving things the benefit of the doubt. I really do, especially things that are like mildly controversial. And I say mildly controversial, as Chris knows. My mom is very anti this movie. I've known for a very long time that she did not like it, and not for any religious reason, but just because she is a musical lover, and she like got her degree like as a theater kid, and like I've seen a lot of Broadway plays because of her. And just her opinion as somebody who consumes a lot of this type of content, including enjoying a lot of movies that are religiously coded, even if it's not in line with her beliefs. It's just, she always told me, like, it's bad. It's bad. And I was like, really? Really? Like, why do you think it's bad? I never saw it. I wanted her opinion. She couldn't really articulate it to me. I get it. I can finally say at the age of 26, it's been a long time, but I can finally understand why my mom does not like this movie.
I mean, here's a couple things. I mean, obviously, you know, this, as if you can't tell, this was something that I chose. Do I wish I had chosen something else? No, because I'm sure if I was like, Emma, do you want to do another thing before the end of the month that's not fucking boring? You'd probably say yes, but that doesn't change the fact that we spent time watching this. And this movie does drag. And the sad thing is, best I can tell, the other versions that I've seen, the other interpretations that we looked at together, and then again, I've seen other interpretations other than that one, they seem to do more interesting things with what they're doing. And this just seems to be the story of Jesus with music. And look, it was originally a rock opera. It was originally a concept album, which it was released as a concept album initially. So like, this was never meant to be this. This is this because of the success of that. And then they said, well, this could then be a thing that we do elsewhere and turn it into this bigger, grander idea. And knowing that it feels that way, it almost feels a little less well, I was going to say a little less specific and a little more experimental. Like it could have been more experimental in terms of like the ideas that they were presenting and the way that they were doing the music. But for me, the way the movie presents it being, I mean, again, there are these weird anachronisms throughout, and they're in every version of Jesus Christ Superstar. But again, the story of Jesus, given that it's a dramatization, it doesn't necessarily have to be set in fucking 4 BC. But that's the other thing. And the way the movie frames it is interesting because it shows the kind of the players showing up into the desert of what is Palestine and Israel. And
like, actually, which I did not know.
Right. And like, I mean, it's not beautifully shot, I would say. Like and that's the other thing for me about something like this. I mean, again, like mentioning the fact, like, great, shot in Israel, shot in Palestine. These are the places where this took place. The real locations that are talked about in the Bible that, again, most modern people who study these kinds of things professionally can agree Jesus Christ probably existed. Again, was he the Son of God? Your mileage will vary with that. But shooting it in Jerusalem, the Dead Sea, Nazareth, like that adds something. Like it doesn't take away from the movie, but it also doesn't add anything of fun or excitement or subversiveness. And that's the thing. Like, we watched certain performances from one of the stage productions of the musical, and it is more interesting to look at just on the face of it than this entire movie is for the most part. Even the weird anachronisms of tanks showing up at one point chasing Judas, fighter jets flying over Judas. I mean, the Roman soldiers looking like
California dude
like
bros,
surf Nazis. Like, it's super weird.
Beaters.
Yeah, and again, like, these are the choices that are being made to introduce strange anachronisms into this story because, again, the way that they're presenting it in this movie is, again, these are people in modern day going and doing this play in the desert,
but
putting this on.
How did they get tanks and fighter jets?
Again.
And then never show back. And that's the thing that bothers me, is that they use the tanks to be like the Romans. And like, it was on screen for like, what, a grand total of 10 seconds. And like, Judas is like running away from them. And then see the tanks again. It's just like, yep, there were tanks. It's like, why? Why did we need that? I feel like that cost money, and someone just said, it look cool. Let's get some tanks in here. And like, that's fine. But it's like, if you're gonna make something, I don't think everything needs to be polished like to a perfect degree. But there should be a level of everything has a purpose. Unless if the purpose is to be absurd, which I don't get the vibe that this is trying to be absurd. I'm getting the vibe that it's trying to be like provocative, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be provoked into understanding from seeing 4 tanks slowly come over a sand dune for 10 seconds.
Why? And that's the thing, and that's the issue that I have with this presentation of the musical, is that like the things that are supposed to be interesting do not serve anything anyways, because again, like you mentioned, like things are seemingly done. The only things that I can explain away are these people have come to the desert together. We see them all as normal people before they take on the roles of the characters that they're playing. And then we see them at the end of the movie leave the desert together. Spoilers, except for one person. Can you imagine who that person might be? But that's the thing. It's like those two things make perfect sense. And the things that they do to get around that, like the fact that the troupe for the most part is the same people portraying like the audience that asks Jesus to be killed, or the mob, if you want to call them that, because again, that's the way they're portrayed. But these people show up multiple times other than kind of like the main players like Judas and Jesus and the apostles. So they're making do with the people that they have, which makes sense given the framing device used here. But like there are, like you said, there are other things that happen that make no fucking sense, like tanks, like jets. And again, like if this is just meant to be like, oh, look, we're in Israel and Palestine during Israel's occupation of this area after this 6-year war or whatever it is, like, okay, fine. But like you just mentioned, to what end are we doing that? Because that seems to be something that
say with that,
right? Like that seems to be something that the director and the cinematographer are injecting into this, as opposed to it coming from the stage play. Because the stage play's intent is what the intent of the movie ends up being, but it's just not done very well because other things are getting in the way, which is, did the message of Jesus get in the way of who Jesus was? And was his message amplified by the right or wrong people? And kind of in all of these things coming together, does the message of Jesus and Jesus Christ, which one matters more? And I would say like that question has not been answered yet, because that is part of the Christianity problem at hand now, which is, if Jesus matters so much, why aren't you listening to his teachings? And if you're not listening to his teachings, why do you care about Jesus to begin with? And that's the question that Jesus Christ Superstar, one of the questions it poses. And it uses, and again, I think the smartest thing about the musical is the character of Judas being put upon by the same God that's asking Jesus to die. The same God is asking Judas to sell Jesus out because he has to, because God is telling him what to do. Best we can tell. And then Judas bristles at that at the end and says, well, why am I having, like, Judas and Jesus have two kind of warring songs. One about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane talking about, God, why are you killing me? And then Judas asking God, why did you doom me to kill myself, essentially? Why am I doomed to want to kill myself? Because I've essentially doomed my name to the dustbin of history, or the sewer of history. I mean, again, he's literally in the lake of fire for a lot of Christians, or at least Dante.
I mean, not in this portrayal.
Right.
I wouldn't have known that.
Right.
He's portrayed, he goes to heaven. That's very clear.
In both versions that you saw, because in the stage version, he also descends from heaven, which is literally antithetical to what I would consider to be most of Christianity, if not almost all of Christianity's interpretation of Judas, which is he sold Jesus out for, 12 pieces of silver. And while that does happen here, Judas throws that back and says, I don't want any of this. But that's not a version of Judas that I think most Christians would be normally okay with accepting.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up the interesting point is that it's clear that all of it was supposedly a part of God's plan. And so God wanted Judas to do that, to put this plan into motion. And it makes sense for following what God wanted, despite committing suicide, which is one of the big no-nos, as far as I know, that he winds up going to heaven, where I'm assuming that's what happened in the Bible, that he followed the ultimate path that God had laid out, killed himself, and then instead went to hell, which it's just, I don't know, narratively, it's less satisfying.
Well,
you gotta confront the writers of the Bible.
And that's the thing, like in the Bible, Judas takes the money and throws it back. So again, those things do happen, but where the story takes the Judas character after he commits suicide is just, again, like it is literally the version of the Bible that, again, would make more sense. That interpretation would make more sense, because like you just mentioned, if we can look at this objectively and say everybody in the Bible, or in Jesus Christ Superstar by extension, is following God's will, or at least what they believe to be God's will, and that is, again, what we're interpreting as they're following, then Judas did exactly what God asked of him, which means that, I mean, Jesus doesn't die without Judas selling him out.
And so how could Jesus die for our sins?
Exactly. So how is Judas anything more than just a complex figure who had to make what anyone right now, even in modern times, would consider to be the hardest decision possible, which is selling out your best friend and someone who you believe to be the literal Messiah walking on earth for 30 pieces of silver. Like, that decision is not made lightly, even if you are following God's will, because that is a hard decision to make regardless of time and era. And that's the more interesting story, is what is at the core of someone who has no choice in making that decision and has to do it because they know that that's what's intended. That's a much more interesting question. And that's what Jesus Christ Superstar kind of starts getting to, but the movie doesn't get there at all, because the presentation of certain musical numbers, it seems like they're just doing it to as a counterpoint to what we've seen in the movie. And it's like, oh, it's kind of a James Brown, soul-y, funky R&B number. So we'll just have him kind of do like a Vegas show thing. And like, it's just like, like you just mentioned again, to what end are you doing this if it's not just to be stylistically different for the sake of doing it?
One thing I want to say about the structure of the movie overall is I wish that it started earlier in the timeline. I feel like where the starting point is opening with Judas making that, like, first step towards betrayal, basically. Like
Right.
deciding that like this is the path that he's going to go down. Seeing all of the things that Jesus is doing that no longer seems in line with what he was originally teaching, or, you know, putting everyone in danger.
Heaven on Their Minds, which is a great opening song. Like it's a great song.
So I wish they had started, you know, with the prologue of the conception, and who was he and how did he get to this point. I feel like that would have added so much more intrigue. I feel like I would have been much more connected to him as a character. You know, just like forgetting about the Bible for a second, if we could, for the sake of
If we were
discussing
able
this.
to,
If we were able, I feel so detached from all of the characters. It does not feel solid, you know?
They don't feel fully realized at all.
No, it's just they feel like characters more than they feel like people. They feel like it's very clear that they're playing a part, which I mean, if it is to be set up as a group of, you know, like a performing troupe, then that makes total sense. But it doesn't make it an interesting watch. It
is in and of itself a choice. That's a choice, right? Like it's a choice.
But the question is it a good choice? It's a justifiable choice, but is it a good, interesting, you know, choice that makes the movie better? I would argue no. I feel like the other interpretation as well is like, is this a traveling troupe, or are they just a bunch of hippies having an acid trip in the desert? Like
that's more fun.
I don't know.
Well, that's what I was joking about when the movie ends, because again, spoilers for a book that's been out since BC or a story that's been around that, you know, almost that long. Jesus dies at the end, and in this version, Ted Neeley, who plays Jesus, because again, we're assuming that we're seeing Ted Neeley, the actor, go from being the actor Ted Neeley to Jesus Christ, superstar, and then he dies as Jesus Christ, and then he does not come back as Ted Neeley. And they notice that and they leave. But like, again, what does that mean? What is that serving? If it's serving anything. And that comes back to what you said, which is it is a choice that they have made, but that is the choice that they have made in the movie version. In the musical Jesus Christ Superstar, it is just taking place as best can be seen during the time of Jesus, which is what the movie is trying to kind of split the diff, right? They're trying to say, okay, it's taking place during modern times, which is why the anachronisms are there. But that also allows us to say, well, we're just setting it in Jerusalem and Palestine. So that's why they're dressed up this way. And that's why they're walking through these canyons that are washed out, because this is that part of the world with those white fucking deserts. And that's what there is something to be...
And very little set design in comparison with the stage performance. It's so bare bones. There's no, like, they're in a fucking cave at one point. There's no houses. Nobody has a house.
Yeah,
there's not a single house.
But I'll tell you that there's a couple settings that are interesting. I would say that underground cavern thing is interesting, right? Like at least there's something going on. It's an interesting setting. I mean, I've never seen something like that. Never been anywhere like that. But like these like canyons and stuff. I mean, when I asked you while we were watching it where they shot it, and you said Arizona, and it's like, well, oops, you kind of like, you don't necessarily succeed in a lot of ways, because again, the desert can just be the desert, which is why spaghetti westerns got away with it for so long, because there are deserts in Italy that look shockingly like the West. And that's the thing. It's like, again, I get that this choice was made, and I get that they're trying to do a quote anachronistic but yet somehow faithful recreation of the story. But yeah, it robs it of any fun subversiveness that all these other interpretations that exist out there, easy to find, that don't require you to pay money like this version does, because this version is only available right now to rent. It's not streaming anywhere. Those versions offer, like you said, something more than just, oh, it's the story of Jesus, but they're like a traveling troupe. But to your point, they don't do anything with it, so why does that matter? And the moment that you kind of think, oh, they're going to do something with it at the end of the movie, they don't. Like, there's an interesting shot at the end of the movie that kind of, you see what's assumed to be Ted Neeley as Jesus walking with his flock of sheep behind him. But so what? Like, that's an interesting shot, but like, did he die I think I joked with you at the end, like,
become Jesus.
yeah,
And you become this. What this teaches me is that anyone could be Jesus.
that's
Wow.
it. Yeah. Great message.
I mean, what else? What else? I mean, I
Right.
literally don't know how else to interpret that other than if you play the role of Jesus, you become Jesus, which I don't think is a good. I mean, do you want to dive into that? Is there
I
something
kind of
there?
want to, because like,
Sure.
but what you just said, like, again, like that could theoretically in and of itself be a way to interpret Jesus Christ Superstar, and by extension, the story of Jesus, which is like that, like you said, that Jesus had a part to play and he played his part well. And
Yeah.
so the question is, like, if any one of us played that part, could we not have been Jesus in and of ourselves? And I do wonder. I mean, again, I've had this conversation. I think you and I have had this conversation on Scary Stories. And the question of, like, if there is no God and our own consciousness when we die just goes into the ether, but we're able to control where it goes just by our own existence doing that, are we then in and of ourselves our own God because we, by belief or force of will, are able to manifest ourselves into something afterwards that is what we want, which is what everybody always talks about with heaven. It's what someone has always wanted. I mean, heaven is a place where you want to go. That's why so many people strive for it. That's why so many people have done so many things in the name of it. So are we not just playing out our own part in that way? And are we not our own kind of, because that's the question of Jesus, is Jesus inspired other people, and the man who was Jesus died, but his message lived on. And I mean, again, like, I don't think that the message of Jesus is inherently wrong any more than you do. Like, I mean, he preached some pretty smart stuff.
Sure.
Don't be a piece of shit to other people. Be kind, be caring. I mean, those things tend to get lost in all the other terrible shit people have done in the name of Jesus, which is beside the point.
Tell a mother of 2 small children that because of their religion, they're automatically going to burn for all eternity unless they accept Jesus as their one true savior.
Cool.
Yeah, I remember where that was in the Bible for sure.
Right. Or proselytizing to your friend while you're eating Chinese food together during college, and your friend just being like, hey man, like, I'm not going to ever believe in this bullshit. I don't care how much fucking Flavor Aid your ass is drunk in the last couple of years, but I'm good because that happened to me and that was an uncomfortable situation. Yeah. I'm not friends with that person anymore. Yeah.
That's always uncomfortable.
I know. And
I could talk about that for a while. I'll try not to.
And they don't realize it, which is fine. But that's the thing. Again, like,
Fine.
No, well, I mean, hey, I mean, sure. As far as they know. Me personally, I believe that human beings have a lot of autonomy. We have a lot of free will. We have a lot of ability to define our own story. We are the authors of our own journey through life. That is what I genuinely believe. Now, forever, yesterday, tomorrow, until the end of time, which in my mind is not something that a lot of Christians believe, because Christians are okay with ceding levels of control over to other people in the way that you see Judas and Jesus cede control of their lives over to God, quote unquote. Because again, Jesus could have left. Judas didn't have to sell out Jesus, but per God's will, they did. And the question then becomes God's will, free will. Who, if God exists, why would he want you to do terrible things? Like, if God existed, why would he be okay with these things? Unless God is not as altruistic as certain people believe him to be through certain interpretations. But that, again, is the question here. It's like, what is the point of any of this if all we're doing is misinterpreting the message? And that's the question that Judas asks in this entire movie is, what is the point of the message if there's no consistency to it and nobody can figure out what the point is? And that's where we are now as a society, which is, again, the message has become so crowded and there doesn't seem to be anybody who can agree on anything anymore, even Christians among themselves. And that's what Judas asks is like, are we even doing what we said we were doing to begin with? Like, and is the message, or is Jesus more important than the message, or is the message important? Because again, we live in times where people who are claiming to be Christian don't seem to be doing the things that Jesus, I think, would be okay with. So whose cart and whose horse is being put in front of what?
Right. I feel like that the way that this movie is laid out, it doesn't feel like it paints Christianity in a positive light. The ending kind of feels, I guess, a little different. Like, during like the crucifixion and like everything that follows that, I feel like maybe there's a bit of a tonal shift in that regard. But like other than that, other than that, it doesn't feel like they support, like the writers support Christianity in any way. Like it feels like more than anything, they're calling out the followers of Christianity to look at this in a different lens, because a lot of people who believe these things are oftentimes uncomfortable with different interpretations. And being able to see this type of this story that, you know, people are already familiar with through the eyes of somebody else, through just like with a different connotation behind it, a different level of context that maybe was not there in other versions. And like that does not paint Jesus as this, sure, like a flawed, but like otherwise like perfect man, right? Because that's like what it comes out to, is like, I feel like a lot of other interpretations is like, this is the ideal human. Like, right. This is what we all should be. Yes, he has his flaws. We're all flawed. But like, isn't he the best person to have ever walked the earth?
Well, he died for all of our sins, supposedly.
And like, I feel like that's usually the tone that I've seen in other media that's telling similar stories about Jesus and in regards to the Bible. And this one doesn't do that. It doesn't feel like it's constantly like patting Jesus on the back. Or saying, oh, boo-hoo, Jesus had it so hard. Like, it doesn't feel like it's doing that constantly. Because I feel like that's what the other ones are. It's like, either, wow, Jesus, wow, you're amazing. You're so cool, and you prove everyone who doesn't believe in you wrong. Or, oh my God, Jesus
is cool.
Jesus is cool. God. Or it's just like, you see, you messed me up. It's so late. How am I supposed to
anachronisms in the songs are what
jarring. Yeah. It's jarring. You've jarred me.
It's more jarring, even more than like the Superstar song at the end where they're talking about Buddha and Muhammad. Like that, I totally jive with. But like when they go, Jesus like is cool, it's like, whoa.
Like Genie from Aladdin, you know?
Yeah.
At that point, you've like ascended, you know?
You can see forward and backward, left and right in time. And, you know, you mentioned the interpretation of Jesus Christ, right? And shockingly, this movie and musical are not popular with Christianity because, again, there are plenty of things to get upset at. I mean, look at how sympathetic Judas is being portrayed. Look at Jesus Christ being portrayed as a complex individual as opposed to someone who went willingly to his death and didn't struggle with it. So there are plenty of things that could be seen as blasphemous. I will say the movie and the musical don't necessarily do anything to contradict and I would say disprove, but stop furthering the conversation about the Jewish faith being responsible for deicide, which the movie and the musical and any interpretation, because that's just the story it's telling, more or less says is what happened because Caiaphas and Annas, two of the clearly coded villain characters, by both
immediately
the dress, by both the register in which the actors are singing, one is a bass and one is like a countertenor, which are in their own right two very specific things that elicit very specific reactions from you as a listener. Like those are Jewish priests. And so like it doesn't do anything to put to bed that controversy, which I think is just as important a controversy to address, which is that whole thing of like that version of anti-Semitism, which is a version of anti-Semitism that exists in the world, which is Jews are the responsible for the death of Jesus. And it's like, Jesus was a fucking Jew. Idiots. And
I really like that's a good jingle.
Jesus was a fucking Jew. I mean, he was. But like the Jewish faith whole cloth is blamed for Jesus dying. But it's like, guys, you morons are the same morons that are putting Jesus Christ the person ahead of Jesus Christ the message. So again, like I don't bristle at it too much, but I don't think it's something that like needs to continue into the 21st century much further. This misinterpretation of what happened to blame a group of people to further anti-Semitism, because in the world right now, we don't need any of that shit for anybody, period. I'm not taking a side on any of this shit, but we don't need it for anybody at all, period. And there's, like I said, there's no way to get around it because it's part and parcel of the story that they're telling. At least they're not being portrayed stereotypically, which I appreciate. But again, like there is no way to get around the base narrative that they're telling. Right. So it's fine. I mean, again, like Judas is normally 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10 portrayed and presented as the villain of the Jesus story. And this movie doesn't do that. So right there, and then it's already at odds with the Bible, and most people who are Christians have checked out. Because that's like one of the things you can't fuck with is like Judas. Because like the term to be a Judas is a thing that everybody knows, not just Christian. So like that in and of itself, I think speaks volumes to how bizarre an interpretation this already is. But I feel like the movie version is trying to like course correct it back to something recognizable. And for me, and clearly for you, that is like a big fucking misstep. Like, yeah. I really think as much as like Norman Jewison and everybody else probably thought like, this is going to be a great idea. We're going to take it and we're just going to do it. We're going to go. We're going to go, guys. Like, we're going to go to Palestine. We're going to go to Israel. Like, these are places that are still then and now places that you choose to be there because there's a lot of stuff going on there that many people, myself and yourself included, would not want to immediately invest ourselves in. And these actors and director and film crew went there and filmed this movie, which in and of itself, I think is admirable, but it's admirable from a technical standpoint, and that only carries you so far. Recently having conversations about The Revenant, a Leonardo DiCaprio movie that not a whole lot of people are talking about in 2024 for plenty of reasons. It was a technically impressive film, but outside of that, for me, it didn't give me much to chew on. Jesus Christ Superstar, the movie, in a lot of ways, has a similar problem, which is there's a lot that the musical itself provide, but the movie, the way it's doing it doesn't really serve the musical even. It's almost like it's just a Jesus Christ story that they're like, oh, right, we have to do the fucking Jesus Christ Superstar thing too. Like,
yeah, I can't tell if they're taking themselves seriously or not.
Which is a problem.
That's a cognitive dissonance that I have, because like I feel like there are points where it's just straight up goofy, and then there are points where it's like this, but this part, guys, is serious. And
he's dying on the cross, folks. We got sad tears. Josh Mostel being King Herod dancing around as a gay-coded character, however, what is that supposed to be? Like, that's the question, right? Like, what
it's just like we're losing them. Like, that's what it feels like. It's like, all right, we got to do something fun because at this point we're probably losing them. It's like, I don't know. Do the people that make the movie are like, do they like, are they Christian? Do they believe in this, in the ultimate like message of, you know, Jesus's teachings, and like, are they, or are they neutral? Like, and I like it. It's hard for me to understand like what the intention behind the making of it. Is it meant to be a parody? Is it meant to be a thought piece? Is it meant to be just a fun retelling? Like, I don't know. Is it meant to be serious? It doesn't feel like it, but then like the ending is like, hey, tone shift, big old tone shift.
Best I can tell with everything that I have read, it seems like it's just, oh, you know, we have this story that everybody knows, and wouldn't it be interesting to do a story about the relationships between Jesus and Mary and Judas, and to go more in depth and like give it some like life and body and something that you can really hold on to. And like, that's all it seems to be. It doesn't seem like anybody was like, well, we have a musing, an idea here. We're going to go. Right. It's like, and that's the thing. Like, it seems like other interpretations of this do have something to say or want to say something more than just, oh, if not for the fact that there's a couple scenes that really don't jive with a traditional interpretation of the story, this could have just been a traditional interpretation of this story, which is a shame because the things that do stand out, even though I don't like the interpretations of the songs in these scenes. And you talked about this when we talked about Cats last week with Rumple Teaser and what the fuck is the other one's name?
Mungo Jerry. Like, that version of the song in the movie is fucking god awful. I know, and it hurts.
And it's not even like within the interpretation of the movie a fun version. It's just a poor version of the version of the song that's really
lazy.
Good.
It's just lazy.
And so we come to King Herod's song. in Jesus Christ Superstar, the movie, Josh Mostel, Zero Mostel's son, Zero Mostel played Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway. So has some credibility. He was also King Herod, I guess, in just this movie version. It is such a bizarre interpretation of a song that I had heard for literally years before seeing this movie. A version that I really like by Mike Dabo, who just, there's like a theatricality to it that the movie doesn't, it's not that the movie doesn't hint at it, but the movie's doing something very different, where King Herod is a big character, but big in a different way. You mentioned it when we were listening to the version, because we didn't see the version, the Mike Dabo version, just we heard it. He is a lot more bombastic in a Elton John kind of way. In the movie, it's just, to say it's gay coded might be an understatement. It's very flamboyant, but it's not sung as well. It's a little sing-songy, spoken wordy. I'm not going to say Lin-Manuel Miranda, because I think Lin-Manuel Miranda's sing-song is more melodic than this. This is just like, I don't know. It's like, it's not grounded the same way the stage version is. I love the stage.
The term you're looking for is, go on, girl, give us nothing.
Yeah, it's just like, it's, and again, like the version of that song that you like in Cats 2019 isn't great in and out of the musical. I do think in the musical movie version of Jesus Christ Superstar, that song works because it's such a breakup of everything else that we've literally been seeing that just is so samey, and it's so weird.
It helps you get through like the last 25 minutes, which is just fucking slow. It just kept going. It just took so long.
Well, that's the thing. Like Superstar, the song in the stage play, is taking place while Jesus is going up on the cross. You saw it in the version that we watched. The movie version doesn't do that. The movie version has it happening chronologically. So Superstar happens, and then Jesus is on the cross. And then we hear Jesus giving his final words, and then Jesus dies, and and that's it. And like the last song is, in the movie version, the last song is Jesus Christ Superstar, or Superstar as it's called. And so that's how the movie ends. I mean, like, there's not really anything else. Like, there's literally nothing else. They just leave, and that's it. And so it seems like it would have been better suited to have him dying while that song is being played, because again, in the state,
more impactful,
and it's very subversive, because like it really speaks to like, did this guy really need to die for his sins? Was Jesus Christ that actually the Son of God? Or as Tim Rice, I think, said, like, he was just the right guy in the right place at the right time. And like, that also could be a valid interpretation if you want to really boil it down.
Much do you believe in himself?
Right.
Is the question that I think most of this is trying to get at, is who was Jesus to Jesus?
Right.
I feel like that's a very interesting question. I feel like that's not something that most interpretations are willing to touch on, because as you said before, like, it's very blasphemous. Like, how dare you question Jesus's intention? And yet I feel like it is such a fascinating lens to look at it through. But then again, like, strong believers of this don't want fascinating. They want their pure interpretation, and that's understandable. But as somebody obviously who is not attached to that, but who has been subjected to hearing about Jesus throughout my life, I definitely think it's a very interesting lens that I have not personally considered before. Because I mean, I guess I never thought that hard about it, but I like that. That's thought-provoking. But then again, that's not the movie. That's, that's the stage play. And the movie just kind of took that. It's not the movie doing something super interesting on its own.
Right. The music is still there.
The movie doesn't do anything super interesting on its own. And that's the same way that I feel about Cats. The few things that it did try to do that were different on its own, that came purely from the conception of the new writers of the movie version, were all failing. They weren't interesting. They weren't fun. They did not meet expectation. It felt forced. And so all of the good things, all of the fun things, those are taken directly from the source. And that sucks. It sucks that there's nothing about this that would be better than seeing the stage play, because that's really what it feels like. The most interesting thing would be the setting, and there's not that much that happens with it. And again, like maybe that was the intention if they're supposed to be like a traveling troupe of performers. Like I get that. Like, you know, if you're doing a pop-up performance, you don't really have a lot to do with like setting, but like, I don't know. I don't know how much that adds, or it's just an explanation to do less, right? Because like, that's kind of what it feels. It just kind of feels like a justification for not trying as hard.
A limitations justification is what it feels like. And like, again, like there is something to be said for like a stripped down, pared down, really kind of like they're on location and they're doing weird things. But like, again, like that's not even it. It's just like, yeah, it's kind of just like whatever. They're kind of just doing what you would expect them to be doing if this were just a thing about Jesus anyways. And in a lot of ways, like that's not necessarily a bad thing, if you know what I mean. Like in a lot of ways, like this just being a good movie about Jesus could in and of itself be okay, I guess. Like that's what I don't like know. Like, you know, the reaction to this movie seems to be like not necessarily positive or negative, but like it is one of the movies that has like been voted on, and I forget who was voting on it where, but they were like, this is one of the best movies about Jesus. And it's like, I mean, I guess like if we're just talking about it widely as like a movie about the Jesus story, like could you do better? I don't know. Could you do worse? Yeah, at least this has some songs. Like there are things that are fun about the movie. Again, when we've kind of talked about it, King Herod's song is kind of fun. It was Huffington Post. That's where they voted that this was the best movie about Jesus. Sure. Sure. King Herod.
I want to know what the Rotten Tomato score is.
The Rotten Tomato score for this movie, I want to say, without seeing it immediately, is
should we place bets?
We used to do this a long time ago. I would like ask, like, what do you think the Rotten Tomato score is? And like, this was before it became a thing. And then like, I stopped doing it when Rotten Tomatoes became a thing because I hated it. So what do you think the Rotten Tomato score is?
Audience score 43.
Audience score. Wait, so wait, what about the tomato meter? Because that's a different thing.
The tomato meter is it the average of the two?
No, the tomato meter is like the critics, the audience.
The critics. Okay. Yeah. So I think the critics would say 38.
So the critics are you're off, but you're not off by as much as I think you think you might be. So the Jesus Christ Superstar movie that we watched from 1973 has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 48%, okay, based on 29 reviews, and 76% audience score based on 25,000 plus reviews. So not a small number. It's honestly like it did not have my attention as much as I think it wanted to. I think that there are significantly more interesting movies. I feel like if anything, the audience just gave it extra kudos because it's Jesus. And honestly, I hate that. I don't like. I mean, it's all, but again, like also like I think that also the audience for this is the people who like the musical. And that may not have anything to do with Jesus. Like, again, like, I don't think that Christians like this. Christians don't like this because this isn't what they want it to be. But I also don't know if it is that popular. No, but I mean, like, I love the stage production of Cats. I hate the movie because it's worse. But the movie made money, remember, because of how popular the stage play is, which is why this is as what. Look, there's only one movie version because of people who saw the stage play. I mean, again, similarly to Cats, just like Cats, this is a mega successful musical that Andrew Lloyd Webber made. So, sure. I mean, like there are three and only three film versions of Andrew Lloyd Webber plays: Evita, Jesus Christ Superstar, and four: Jesus Christ Superstar and Phantom of the Opera. That's it. There haven't been anything else, and those are the four. Like that's the thing. Like you're like I agree with you. I see where you're coming at this from, but at the same time, I think like this in similarity to Cats is like I think this was Cats of the 70s is what this feels like, and like that, and like I think maybe more to your point, that is lost in the film interpretation for us in 2024. Like, why is this so fucking popular? Why is there a movie version of this? I don't think that the movie, like you said with Cats 2019, I don't think this movie justifies its existence at all because it doesn't do anything differently. And again, if you're trying to like give us a weird framing device, like why not just have it be the fucking story? Like you don't do anything.
Yeah.
So just have it be the Jesus story. And like, if it had been that, there may have been more interesting things you could have done. But instead, they kind of don't do either. They kind of pick both, which for me, it's that idea of like you're a jack of all trades and master of none. And it's like,
Yeah.
by having like, oh, that fun scene with King Herod and that fun scene at the end with the ghost of or the angel of Judas and like the Judas, having on their minds at the beginning of the movie. Like, yeah, those are great performances. Yeah, those are great songs, but those are great songs on stage. So whoop-de-doo. Like the movie in one of the cases of the songs doesn't add anything. It actually detracts in terms of my version and appreciation that I have come to be accustomed to with King Herod's song. But again, like why do any of this way if you're not going to do more with it? And that is the failing of the movie, because the questions that are being asked on the stage are kind of lessened in the movie because they're just kind of not doing anything really interesting the way that they're thinking they are. I think they're being a lot more, I think they think they're cleverer than they actually are, which is the worst kind of trait, right? Like, oy.
Yeah. Oy vey.
Right, oy, big oy vey.
My ultimate thought on like why was the movie as popular as it was is I'm assuming 95% of the people that wanted to see the stage play could not.
Right.
Because they could not get to it. They could not afford it. And so it's like, I want to see Jesus Christ Superstar. And your mom goes, we have Jesus Christ Superstar at home. Like it's what it feels like. It's like you can't experience the good version, but you can at least experience it kinda.
Right. You can experience it. Like that is like you are getting Jesus Christ Superstar. And it's just like, and again, like we live in a time of wonders and magic now where we can see a stage version put on at a point in time that does not exist anymore, that is better than the movie version, but that didn't exist then. And that technology wasn't around then. So There you go. And like, yeah, it does kind of suffer even now because again, it's just like a version that you can watch that is lesser because there are other versions out there that are better. There have been, there's a movie version, so there's this one, and then there's the version that I showed you, which I think is from like the late 2000s, and then in 2018, they did one of those like live in concert things on NBC, and John Legend played Jesus. So there is another version, and I mean, that would be interesting. I've seen there's an Alice Cooper King Herod version, because he plays King Herod, Alice Cooper does in that version, and it's kind of like this one. It's weird in a fun, it works on that version and wouldn't work anywhere else way, but I mean, for the longest time, this was it. Like you said, like if you wanted to see Jesus Christ Superstar, here you go. This is it.
If you didn't have the better thing to compare it to,
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And similarly to Cats from 1998, that VHS version, it's that in reverse. Now there are better versions of Jesus Christ Superstar to see, and this version is kind of the lesser because, again, and yes, it's asking the questions of the musical, but the musical's asking them. So it's not a credit to the movie. It's a credit to the musical and the people who wrote the musical. Cats, similar problem, different order. The 1998 version of Cats, I think, is the literal best version of Cats that you can watch easily. I mean, that's the one that you and I kept referring to when we were being subjected to the 2019 version. 2019 version comes out seemingly for no reason other than Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats is a mega musical. We talked about that plenty on the last episode. And like you've mentioned already and alluded to, it doesn't do anything. It actually makes the musical so much worse just on the face of it with those horrifying CGI creatures that we can't even get to look at the story because those things are such a distraction. They ruin Jesus Christ Superstar similarly here by just, we're going to do something, but we don't really choose anything interesting, and it's such a shame. So, final thoughts on Jesus Christ Superstar?
Don't watch it if you don't want to. It's not necessary. It sure was. If you're curious and you enjoy movies from this time period, being like the 70s, just for the sake of, the aesthetic, or that's just the type of stuff you like, then yeah, you might find it relatively entertaining. if you're a big fan of Jesus, I don't know how you're going to feel about this unless if you're open to challenging ideas. Yeah, I mean, it felt like I could have gone my life without it, if not for the fact that I have heard for so long that my mom hates it, and now I have a much better understanding as to why. It feels like everything wrong with an adaptation. It's just, other than the fact that, like, I mean, the actors were good for the most part.
But they're from the stage.
Right. It's just like everything else is lacking. And like, I get it. Limitations of technology at the time. I get it. But are those explanations or are those excuses? I feel like they could have done something so much more interesting and they chose not to. And that's sad. I feel like if I saw the stage production, I would have a much different opinion because it would be so much more engaging. I only saw like a few of the songs and it's night and day, the same way the both versions of Cats are. And that's sad because the source material seems to be amazing. And this just kind of gives it a bad rap. And so unless if I go and have like a Jesus Christ Superstar marathon where I just find all of the videos on YouTube and compile them into like one playlist, I'm sure it already exists, and just watch it all and get my opinion from there. Otherwise, I'm going to say that Jesus Christ Superstar as a whole isn't all that good, which isn't fair to the stage play. And it sucks that my exposure to this was the movie, because I bet the stage play is infinitely better. But yeah, you know, if this isn't the type of movie that you would see otherwise, you're not missing out.
I think it's interesting you mentioned the 70s aspect of the movie, because that may be the overwhelming success of this movie unintentionally is the like 70s-ness of this movie. It's overwhelmingly 70s. All of the production design in terms of the costumes are 70s. And that's a success, but an unintentional success in the face of like so many other things that are failings. And like you said, in a perfect world, the hubris of filmmakers is tempered by the reality that you can be as engaging on stage with a wide canvas of a landscape just as much as someone with a narrow focus like a camera. But filmmakers really have taken it upon themselves to say, well, we got to really take the stage and make it make it expansive. And it's like the best stage plays are expansive with doing so little and so like with such a minimal budget or minimal space that in and of itself is much more impressive than the most amazing CGI creature created by ILM or Weta or anybody. And that is Cats 2019. You had millions upon millions of dollars spent trying to render something realistic cat people looking, and they fucking failed so hard. The movie can't ever be a success because of that alone. And Jesus Christ Superstar has the same problem. You think that what you're going to bring to this is more important than what the creators brought to it already. And guess what? It isn't. Stage is, like, for so many people, musicals and stage is so underrated as a art form because really some of the best character studies in media are done on stage, are done through musicals. And Jesus Christ Superstar has one of those with Judas, a character who literally for an entire religion is the villain. And he's not the hero of the story, but he's definitely not the villain because he comes from heaven at the end preaching that maybe Jesus's message really wasn't that important because there seemed to be a bunch of other ones flying around too. Look, that in and of itself should have been much more important than showing us tanks chasing Judas through the desert. But hey, we got that too. So cool. Thanks, everybody. That for me.
It's so camp.
And that's the thing. It's like it could have been, but it really even isn't. Like it's such a failure in so many ways that, like you said, it's just it's how you do adaptations poorly. And my God, I feel like every single Andrew Lloyd Webber adaptation is an example in a different way of how you don't do an adaptation. Cats, the CGI creatures, Jesus Christ Superstar, trying to do just the Jesus Christ story, but doing it, but not. Evita is just Madonna can't do what Patti LuPone can do. And boy, I get it. It's Madonna, and Antonio Banderas can't sing either until he can as a cat, which is weird. in Puss in Boots. And then Phantom of the Opera this is what happens when you don't cast people who know how to sing. Which like Cats didn't really, I mean,
That's spicy.
Cats sort of has that problem, but not really. Cats has a different, really big issue, the cat people. But like Phantom of the Opera is like Gerard Butler and Emmy Rossum can't sing. And it's apparent because those are really hard songs for even the most talented stage actors to sing. And if you're going to be on stage for some people at a certain time in your career, you had to be a triple threat. You had to be able to do choreography, you had to be able to sing, and you had to be able to deliver dialogue without forgetting it. Those three things, not necessarily actors can do. And that's why in this movie, they have all the people from the stage play. But guess what? Can't do anything about it because the movie itself doesn't do anything with it. It just kind of goes, we're going to do the Jesus thing, and you know, they kind of already talked about it in the musical. So if we just adapt parts of the musical more or less directly, that's enough. And it's not. Yeah. And you know what? I would say like, oh, I'd love to see another filmed version of Jesus Christ Superstar, but I wouldn't because there already exists other versions. The Tim Minchin as Judas version that you can watch on YouTube is a great example of that, where it's like we mentioned, watching them do something interesting with the source material, but not getting in the way of the message, but also amplifying the message in a subversive way. And this movie thinks it's doing it, and it's not. And hey, you know what? More power to you. But to your point, I think for me, I have now seen it, the movie, and I think I am good.
Yeah,
like,
I can't wait to tell my mom tomorrow that she was right.
Right. And I can't wait to go listen to the versions of the songs that I like more from the various other versions that aren't this one, which is not to say that these versions of the songs aren't good in and of their own right, because there are some that are good. But for the most part, they're kind of lost in a otherwise mediocre adaptation of what seems to be a pretty popular stage. So on that note, we'll take a break and we'll play some ads, and then we'll play a preview for what we're going to be talking about on the next episode.
From Weirding Way Media, Cambridge and Washawn is a podcast about two guys' obsessions, passions, and hobbies. Those two guys are
Mark Begley, host of Wake Up Heavy, Recollections of Horror,
and Ronald Zerigian, host of the Skelevator YouTube channel.
Each month we talk about the toys, comics, movies, books, TV shows, and other cultural phenomena that captured our imaginations and helped shape who we are today.
From Masters of the Universe to Saturday Night Live, Star Wars to Harry Houdini, The Muppets to The Elephant Man, Ronnie and Mark dive deep into the recesses of their minds to pull out treasured memories of things lost but never forgotten.
Join us on the first Tuesday of each month over at weirdingwaymedia.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Join me, Jamie Benning, on the Filmumentaries podcast, particularly if you enjoy stories like designer Nilo Rodis Jamiro convincing George Lucas to push him around to help gain the support of his crew on the ailing Howard the Duck.
Blam! The door opens, it's George. Everybody gasps. George makes a beeline to me. I'm literally back against the wall.
Or hear puppeteer Tim Rose's emotional story behind that iconic Admiral Akbar shot in Return of the Jedi.
I believe that war is something to be proud of, but not to celebrate.
Or how Star Wars editor Paul Hirsch tackled cutting so many successful films.
The thing that I learned from working with De Palma is that tension depends on a clock. You need to have the sense that time is running out.
Maybe Oscar-winning sound designer Mark Mangini's insightful chat about his work on Blade Runner 2049.
Not a single sound from the original Blade Runner in the new film. A great deal of inspiration.
That's the Filmumentaries podcast with me, Jamie Benning.
Hello, Twisted Humans. Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting? Then this is the podcast for you. In 1952, there was a record high of UFOs reported. 1,500 sightings. There has been evidence of human sacrifice, devil worship, and it is haunted by more spirits than can be counted. A family of 2 adults and 2 kids reportedly saw a giant flying thing with glowing red eyes. And meanwhile, the family's nanny that helped Veronica to care for her and Lucian's children was found bludgeoned to death in the basement of their family home. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sierra, and this is Twisted and Uncorked.
I want some more.
More? The word for Oliver is more. It's much, much more than a musical. Oliver, the internationally famed stage triumph, now acclaimed by the international press as a monumental screen experience.
I'm reviewing the situation. Can a fella be a villain all his life?
Ron Moody as Fagin. Oliver Reed as Bill Sykes. Harry Seacombe as Mr. Bumble. Shady Wallace as Nancy. Mark Lester as Oliver. Jack Wilde as the Artful Dodger.
He's gonna be a right little Bill Sykes.
You'll hear 14 marvelous numbers, including As Long as He Needs Me and...
Yes, I do. Anything for you. It's a fine life. It's a fine life.
Remember our old tune, be back soon.
So right in the next episode, we're going to be talking about another musical that is an adaptation of a story that is an adaptation of a musical. So we're going to be talking about Oliver, which is a stage play based on Oliver Twist, which is by Charles Dickens. Cool. I've never seen it, but it has Oliver Reed in it, who had a tattoo on the tip of his penis. So that's, yeah, he had a tattoo of an eagle with its claws out on the tip of his penis. It was...
wow.
Amazing, right? I mean, one of the many stories about Oliver Reed. But he's in that, and I'm excited to watch that on the next episode. Until then, you can find Emma and I over at weirdingwaymedia.com, where we do plenty of things together. Not just this. We talk about weird, spooky, and scary shit over on Scary Stories We Tell. And then we also talk about things on YouTube that Emma likes to show Dustin and I on the Surreal Tube episodes, if you're more into talking about movies and TV like we do here. So those are the places you can go to do that. Head on over to patreon.com/Kulturecast. Get in on the $10 level, because Rankin' on Bond is going on right now, which is Richard Haddam, the Projection Booth, Mike White, and myself talking about James Bond movies once a month for the next 26 or 27 months, whatever it is, by the time we get to the end. So, yeah, those are things that you can check out over there. And, yeah, Emma, thank you so much for joining me. And, again, staying up late to watch Andrew Lloyd Webber. I don't know what that's all about, but we've done it twice in as many weeks. So...
It's an accomplishment. I feel fulfilled, but for probably less of the reasons that I anticipated before seeing this. I feel like I've checked something off of a bucket list that wasn't there before. That's the vibe.
I mean, you've seen Phantom of the Opera, right? So you're 3/4 of the way to having seen all the Andrew Lloyd. I mean, now all we have to do is stay up super late and watch Evita together, which I will tell you, like, I have seen Evita so many times because my parents love the movie and I've seen the stage play, but it's at least more entertaining than this. Like, it was like, at least there's stuff going on, as opposed to, like, it's similarly to this, it's like a very stock and trade version of the musical, but at least, like, that's kind of okay. It's just, Madonna's not great. So, yeah, until the next time we do an episode of the Kulturecast, catch you on the next episode.